Hi everyone, welcome back to the violin build and working on the fingerboard. Today in this video I'm going to be working on refining this scoop. The previous videos I've worked on the surface and the edges and the glue surface. So today I'm working on this scoop here. It will extend further back this way and smoothing out the inside. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to get started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is mark a 1.5 millimeter edge or border along each side, and for that I'm using my purfling marker. This is useful for a number of purposes apparently besides purfling. So I've set it for 1.5 millimeters and I already made a mark down the edge, and I don't know if that mark shows up well on camera. Maybe it does right along in there. But so the scoop will be extended out to that mark, and it will go about down to here. This pencil mark is the start of the glue surface. This is the glue surface from here back, and this scoop will go about 10 millimeters farther, or about 10 millimeters from the line, so farther back this way. So I'll use a compass to mark that out. So first I established a center line. I measured the distance from roughly here to here and just got a point halfway between. Same thing up here, and then drew a center line. And then adjusted my compass with a little trial and error so that I would get about 7 or 8 millimeters from here to the glue line, and so that it touches the 1.5 millimeter marks on each side. And so the scoop will be enlarged all out into that area. So that's what I'm going to start on right now. The grain is splitting out in that direction. I should go in this direction, so hang on a second. First I'm just getting down to the 1.5 millimeter line, or close to it. I'll leave a little excess so that I can use a scraper to get closer and more exact after all the gouge work. And the grain is going in the opposite direction on this side. there's a center ridge right down the middle. When they make these things, they must use a router bit or something to go down one side and then down the other, and it leaves a ridge down the center. The grain is going the wrong way right there. And what I'm doing now is just removing the rough grind marks from the manufacturer. A lot of they use some kind of router bit, and it leaves a lot of rough surface. So I'm just scraping that off basically. The grain keeps reversing direction on me, so I have to swap back and forth. Still too thick in this area, so I'm going to establish a depth here and then work around the sides. I did a little bit of work off camera, just getting closer to that 1.5 millimeter edge. because it's just slow and tedious. I need to reestablish the mark. So that kind of shows you the process and what I'm doing. I've established the scoop all the way back to much closer to the glue line. That's about 7 or 8 millimeters away from the glue line. As you can see, it's still pretty rough, but I'm going to continue working down to the 1.5 millimeter line on each side and get that exact, and continue smoothing out. I'm going to measure thickness right along in here. I want to keep it the same thickness all the way down to roughly here, and then it scoops up to the surface. I'm going to do a lot of that off camera because it's just slow, tedious work, but I wanted to show you the process of establishing this scoop, and I'll come back to you when it's closer to finished. So, final comments. That's wraps it up for the scoop. I finished it off camera with a lot of scraping, and so it's there's the glue line. It's pretty close to the glue line there. I got it down right on the edges at the 1.5 millimeter mark, and smoothed everything off. I'll still go over it a little bit with some fine sandpaper, or of course I like 220 grit, and then progressively finer grits after that. But basically it's correct thickness all along. The scoop comes up a little up to there, and that basically is the scooping and the finished fingerboard. The only thing remaining to do is remove saw marks. I'll do that with a file probably, and those are saw marks from the supplier where they made the fingerboard blank. So I'll be removing those. I'll do that off camera because it's just some filing. That wraps it up for the fingerboard. Next step after this is I'm going to be gluing it onto the neck. So stay tuned for that one.